I've got many students who have rotator cuff issues. And I know the rotator cuff, it depends on which muscle is
Yeah.
So I know it depends as part of that, but
Good. So
in general, is there some general considerations that we should consider when we're practicing yogasana, to leading students through yogasana?
yeah, definitely. I'm glad you asked. So Gary's asking about rotator cuff problems, and this is my little rotator cuff model. So generally speaking, so I also thought the rotator cuff was like, some little cup. It's some funny what I think. I thought the SI joint was like, two pieces came together and there was a screw that went through it. I'm like, some of the stuff that I think. So with the rotator cuff, sorry guys, that's just a bit distracting. I keep getting kind of pulled over that way. That's okay. This is just the rotator cuff pulled out, and this guy has some tears in the tendons that I need to repair. This is the front of the right rotator cuff. This is the collarbone. This is the upper arm bone that's been cut off. This is the bicep tendon. So here we have subscapularis, and if you think of the name of it, sub meaning under, and it's scapularis, under the scapula. So subscapularis does this movement. It does internal rotation and helps you take the arm across. None of these do this all by themselves. They all have synergistic muscles that help them. From the back side, you have teres minor and you have infraspinatus. Some people will also include teres major. So depending on what anatomy book you're looking at, it's 4 muscles or 5 muscles. Doesn't matter, And then this little one across the top is supraspinatus, so above the spine of the scapula. And if you reach your hand back and find that bone there, that's the spine. Let your finger roll right in front of it, and that's supraspinatus. And if you press into it, you can feel, it's a little muscle, but it does a lot of work. That one, its main action is abduction. And it has help, but that's its main action. So if somebody goes, oh my God, it hurts to do that, and it feels like a knife across here, or it feels I do that and I get pain down here, that's supraspinatus. And that is, so a lot of times it's from compression of the bone. There's like a bony shelf here, and then all the rotator cuff muscles come in from different directions and do different movements. But if they're getting that impingement right there, either that pain or the referred pain down here, it's usually supraspinatus. And even having them hold on to a railing and lean away from it, sometimes that will fix the problem because it just gets rid of that compression here from the acromion process coming out and the arm bone pushing up into it. So sometimes that's a good fix. This infraspinatus and teres minor, those help with extension and external rotation. So together they all work to do these different actions and to hold the stability of the shoulder. If someone has a rotator cuff tear, you're going to want to avoid things like down dog, plank, chaturanga especially, because chaturanga is great if you do it correctly, but if it's not done correctly, which it's often not done correctly, and when you're not doing something correctly while you're weight bearing, it adds to the drama and trauma of the issue. Free range movement, so if they put their arm here, glued in, and do an external rotation, that works all the muscles of the rotator cuff. And I'll say, okay, because not always do they have an MRI to say, oh, there's a slight tear on the infraspinatus in the front. They don't always have that. So I'll do a little inquiry. Okay, does this hurt? No, that feels okay. It more hurts when I go back. Okay, so we're isolating it to one of those two back there. No, it's all of that's fine, but it's when I go across here it really hurts. Then you know it's more subscapularis. And sometimes it's all of them. And sometimes these, so the white part on here are the tendons. And that's actually the name cuff came from that, where they're coming in from the back, from the top, and from underneath. And that's part of why we can do all of this. We have so much mobility because this is a very shallow ball and socket joint. The hip is more like, what? And then this is more like this gliding one. So if they have rotator cuff pain, free-form movement, inhaling, exhaling, as long as that doesn't hurt. And then there's other poses. Weight bearing might be okay on all fours, just because that will not be as weight bearing, but if it hurts, have them do a seated cat-cow. So you want to increase the circulation and reduce chronic contraction around there. So if I just take a muscle, like my biceps really tight, and if I just like, and I'm going to pull it, the nervous system tells the muscle, don't let that happen, fight it, because it thinks something's wrong. And that's where the whole idea of PNF comes in, that proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. That is doing a few rounds of repetition, so then the body knows, okay, I'm going into a forward bend. If I just flop down into the forward bend, my hamstrings go, something's wrong. They send a message to not even the brain, to the spinal cord, and the spinal cord's like, stop, she's falling. And then you back out a little, oh, wait, she's okay, she's not falling this time, okay, let her go, and then the muscle will release. That's one aspect of the PNF. The other one is repeating things to get circulation in and then holding the stretch. That will allow the muscle to release more easily, and the fascia. One thing they can do well, they can't really do it themselves. If there's a rotator cuff issue in any of the muscles, massaging their subscapularis will release all the tendons. It just has like this cascading effect. So, and this gets into, depends on if you touch your student or not, if they allow. If you're a massage therapist and you know how to do this, you can do it. But if you place your hand on them, like with your right hand, and hold that so that it's supported, and then you can slide your hand under their scapula in the back and just free it up. Sometimes, like the one woman who turned her foot and the knee hurt and she turned it back, that same woman, so she's in her upper 70s, early 80s, I'm not even sure, I don't ask her. She has thoracic outlet syndrome, and so that can be compression around the pec minor and subscapularis. So I taught her how to just reach back here, put her finger up and grab under the shoulder blade and rub. I can't do it, like I don't know why. I can't really get in there very much and it hurts. But some people can get in there. So you're pressing in like you're gonna grab the shoulder blade in the back and then get your thumb in there. It's sensitive. Yeah.
Do you mind demonstrating that?
Yeah. Do you want to come up? And we'll do it from a couple angles. Okay. So Gary, is it okay?
Yes.
I'm going to have you turn your back to the camera. So anytime you do something, you want to brace them. So I'm bracing him in the front, like right here. And feel free to come around if you can't see. So I'm going to hold him there. And then, oh thank goodness, his shoulder blades aren't glued to his back. Mine are like you need an ice pick to get in there. So I'm not going to just dig my fingers in there, especially if you have fingernails, it's just mean. I'm going to get down here and kind of slide my finger under. Oh, you have the best shoulder blades to do this with. So I'm like, literally, I have his shoulder blade between my fingers and my thumb, and I'm rubbing up and down.
How does that feel, Gary?
Feels great. I'm going to have to watch this on video because I can't see what's happening. Feels great.
Take the shirt on.
Good. And then see if you feel a difference between each side.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And then what I would do if this action hurt, I would say, is it okay if I just traction your arm a little bit?
Yeah.
You hold him here, and I'm not just going to gank his arm, especially if it's a 70-year-old woman and you pull her over. I'm just going to brace him here. And I always say, you know, bite me, kick me, spit on me, do something if it hurts, because I don't want to hurt you. And just very gently traction. And then I'll say, okay, try that again, and is the pain gone? And a lot of times it is, not always. So I'm going to do the other side just because it would be mean not to. So bracing him in front, finding the line of the scapula.
Put the shirt a little bit to the side so we can see the. Take your shirt off here.
I've got a hairy back.
Yay! Good, thank you. So see, you can see the line of his scapula. Good. And then I'm not going to, if I just stick my fingers under there, he might elbow me in the face. So I'm going to use the side of my hand and slide up under there. And he's like a dream to work on, because you can just get right in there.
Justine, I have had to go on rotator cuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it feels really good. I call it the chicken wing thing. When you hold on to him, I don't hold on to the hand because then you're tractioning the wrist bones and you're getting into a whole different ball of wax. I hold on to the wrist and then I brace him here, like above the wrist. Yeah, thank you. And then down.
Straight down.
Mm-hmm, straight down. And I used to do it straight out because that's first how I learned it. And I had a PT tell me, you let gravity help you and just pull straight down, and that works much better. Yeah, and then these types of things will work the whole rotator cuff. If they're having issue coming back, walk their arm up the wall. That works. To get the natural tracking back into the joint, abs in to protect your back. Hold on to like a 5-pound weight or a gallon of milk, unless it's, you know, a very frail 72-year-old woman, then maybe a Diet Coke, you know, something small. But going like that gets the natural tracking back in the joint. And then just as a side note, yeah, thank you, Gary. So here I am in a twist. Oh, that feels so good. So this sort of movement can be really good for increasing circulation in the shoulder. That being said, if they have rotator cuff tear, that will hurt. But maybe if they're sitting up and they do that movement, it won't be as much of a pull from gravity. Now here, this is where the shoulder is not, it's more out of the joint. If they're having shoulder pain, you want their arm palm down and less than 90 degrees. That puts the shoulder most into the joint and is least risky. Does that make sense?
With the leg down.